The night began like any other Halloween, filled with laughter, excitement, and the sweet smell of candy. My friends Emma, Jake, Sarah, and I gathered at my house to celebrate this spooky holiday. We were all dressed in our costumes, and each outfit was more elaborate than the last. I wore a dark cloak with a hood that concealed my face, giving me an air of mystery. Emma had transformed into a witch, her flowing black dress trailing behind her as she moved gracefully. Jake was a zombie, complete with fake blood smeared across his face and torn clothes, while Sarah, the jokester of our group, had gone all out as a vampire, her fangs glinting under the dim light in my living room. Our excitement was palpable as we planned our adventure for the night. We had decided to visit the haunted house on the edge of town, a place that was rumored to be cursed. This haunted house was a favorite among thrill seekers, known for its eerie mirror maze that had sent shivers down the spines of many who dared to enter. As we prepared to leave, the air crackled with anticipation, and the chill of the October night wrapped around us like a cold blanket. As we approached the haunted house, a sense of unease washed over me. The house loomed ahead, its dark silhouette outlined against the moonlit sky. Windows that once sparkled with light were now hollow, dark holes staring back at us, like empty eyes waiting for something to happen. "You sure you want to do this?" I asked, my voice wavering slightly, unsure if I was ready for what lay ahead. "Come on, it'll be fun," Emma insisted, her eyes bright with excitement. "What's a little fear among friends? We're all in this together." Jake and Sarah nodded eagerly, their expressions brimming with enthusiasm. "Besides, it's just a haunted house," Jake said, rolling his eyes. "What's the worst that could happen? We'll just get scared a little and laugh about it later." Little did we know, we were about to find out just how wrong we were. We stepped through the creaking front door, its hinges protest loudly as we pushed it open. The smell of dust and decay filled the air, mingling with a faint scent of something sweet yet rotten. Flickering lights overhead cast eerie shadows across the walls, making the entire space feel alive. As we wandered deeper into the house, our laughter faded, replaced by an unsettling silence that hung heavy in the air. Soon, we found ourselves standing in front of the infamous mirror maze. The walls shimmered with a polished surface that promised to reflect more than just our images. "Ready?" Sarah said, a mischievous grin spreading across her face. "Let's see who can make it through first." "Let's stick together," I suggested, suddenly feeling a wave of unease. But my warning fell on deaf ears as they rushed ahead, laughing as they entered the maze. The maze welcomed us, and we followed, our laughter echoing off the walls. But I couldn't shake the feeling that something was off. The moment we stepped into the maze, the atmosphere shifted. The mirrors began to twist and warp our reflections, making our faces appear monstrous. My heart raced, and I felt the hairs on the back of my neck stand on end. "This place is creepy," I muttered under my breath, but no one heard me over the echo of their laughter. "Emma, wait," I called as I lost sight of her in the maze. Panic clawed at my throat as I turned in circles, desperately trying to find my friends. "Guys," I shouted, my voice trembling. "This isn't funny." Just then, I heard a soft giggle echoing through the maze. It sounded so innocent, yet it sent chills racing down my spine. "Emma, is that you?" I called out, my heart pounding in my chest. No response. Pushing through the maze, my reflection warped in every direction, distorting my vision. It felt like the mirrors were closing in on me, the laughter morphing into shrieks that bounced off the walls, making it hard to tell where they were coming from. "Please, we need to get out of here," I yelled, fear gripping me tightly. I turned a corner, and suddenly I found myself face to face with Jake. "What the hell is going on?" he shouted, his eyes wide with terror. "I don't know," I gasped, pulling him along. "We have to find Emma and Sarah. They can't be far." As we ran deeper into the maze, the air felt thick, charged with an unseen force that made my skin crawl. The laughter returned, louder and more sinister, swirling around us like a storm. "This way!" Jake yelled, leading us toward a flickering light in the distance. But the laughter transformed into manic cackles, a sound that felt alive and taunting. We burst through another set of mirrors and into a wide room filled with reflections of ourselves, each one more twisted than the last. "Is everyone okay?" I gasped, looking around. My heart sank as I turned to see Jake's face pale with fear. "Where's Sarah?" he shouted, panic rising in his voice. "She was right behind us," I cried, my heart racing. "We have to find her." "Emma, snap out of it," Jake yelled, shaking Emma's shoulders. She blinked, a vacant look in her eyes. "What just happened?" she whispered, panic lacing her voice. "We have to go. Now," I urged, adrenaline pumping through my veins. I grabbed Emma's arm and pulled her with me as we stumbled through the maze. Shadows danced around us, reaching out with claw-like fingers. It felt as if the house itself was alive, trying to trap us inside. Finally, we broke free from the mirrored room, collapsing onto the hallway floor. The cold air hit us like a wave, but it didn't provide the relief I had hoped for. "Where's Sarah?" I shouted again, my voice breaking. "Maybe she's still in there," Emma cried, tears streaming down her face. "We have to go back," I yelled, but Jake shook his head furiously. "It's too late. We can't go back in there." "But we can't leave her," I insisted, dread settling heavily in my stomach. "She could be in danger." "We can't help her if we die too," Jake shot back, his voice trembling with fear. With one last glance at the dark entrance of the mirror maze, we stumbled away, the sound of laughter echoing behind us. It lingered in my mind, chilling my bones. Outside, we rushed to the car, and as we drove away, a sickening weight settled in my stomach. I felt responsible, knowing we had left Sarah behind. The police were called, but when they searched the houses, they found nothing. They told us it was just a prank gone wrong, that Sarah had probably left with another group of friends. But deep down, I knew the truth. Days turned into weeks, and the emptiness inside me grew heavier. Halloween approached once again, and I couldn't shake the feeling of dread that clung to me like a shadow. The memories of that night haunted me: Sarah's laughter, the dark presence lurking in the mirrors, Emma's blank stare as fear washed over her. Every time I closed my eyes, I could see Sarah's face twisted in terror, her eyes wide with fear. I could hear her voice, calling for help. The house remained a constant reminder of what we had lost. As Halloween neared, my anxiety grew. I started having nightmares, vivid and terrifying. In them, I would find myself back in the mirror maze, the laughter echoing all around me. I would search for my friends, but all I found were twisted reflections and shadows lurking just out of sight. I woke up gasping, my heart racing as I remembered Sarah's terrified face, the way she had vanished into thin air. On Halloween night, I gathered with Emma and Jake at my house, trying to put on a brave face. We were supposed to be having fun, but the atmosphere felt heavy with unspoken fears. "We should do something to remember Sarah," I suggested hesitantly, my voice barely above a whisper. "Maybe we could visit the house again?" "Are you crazy?" Emma gasped, her eyes wide. "We can't go back there. It's too dangerous. What if we get trapped like Sarah?" But we can't just forget her, I argued, my heart pounding. We owe it to her to find out what happened. Maybe we can save her if she's still there. Jake spoke up, his voice low and serious. I think we owe it to her. We have to find out what really happened that night. If we don't go back, we'll always wonder what happened to her. Reluctantly, Emma nodded, her expression a mix of fear and determination. Fine, but we stick together this time. No one gets left behind again. We made our way to the haunted house, my heart racing with every step. The moon hung high in the sky, casting eerie shadows as we approached the front door, now familiar yet terrifying. I could feel the chill of the night air creeping into my bones. When we pushed open the door, it creaked just like it had before. The smell of dust and decay hit us instantly, wrapping around us like a heavy blanket. The flickering lights overhead cast unsettling shadows on the walls, making the house feel like it was alive and watching us. We stepped into the mirror maze, my heart pounding in my chest. "Stay close," I whispered, my voice barely audible over the sound of our footsteps. As we entered the maze, the atmosphere shifted again. The mirrors twisted our reflections, warping our features into grotesque shapes. My heart raced as I remembered that night. "It feels like it's waiting for us," I said, glancing nervously at my friends. "Let's find Sarah," Emma said, determination filling her voice. "We need to know what happened." We moved deeper into the maze, the air thick with tension. The laughter echoed around us, growing louder and more sinister. I could feel my fear creeping back, but I pushed it aside. "We're not going to let fear win this time," I said, trying to sound confident. Suddenly, we heard it again, a soft giggle echoing through the maze. It sounded innocent, but it made my skin crawl. "Is that you, Sarah?" I called out, hope and fear battling inside me. No answer came. "Keep going," Jake urged, leading us further into the maze. But with every step, the laughter grew more frantic, swirling around us like a dark cloud. "This way," Jake shouted, pointing toward a flickering light that seemed to beckon us. We rushed toward the light, the laughter reaching a deafening pitch. Suddenly, I felt a cold gust of wind rush past me, sending shivers down my spine. The mirrors shifted, reflecting our fear in twisted ways. "We need to find Sarah," I shouted, my voice cracking with desperation. We stumbled into a wide room filled with distorted reflections of ourselves. But this time, there were other figures in the mirrors, dark shapes moving just out of sight. "What are those?" Emma gasped, her eyes wide with terror. "I don't know," I whispered, feeling dread settle deep in my stomach. "But we can't let them distract us. We have to focus on finding Sarah." The air grew heavy, and the laughter morphed into cruel taunts that echoed in our ears. "You'll never find her," a voice whispered, chilling me to the bone. "She's mine now." I felt a cold wave wash over me, and I knew we had to act fast. "We have to get out of here," I yelled, panic rising in my chest. "We can't let it take us too." With that, we sprinted through the maze, our hearts pounding. We dashed through mirrors and corridors, the shadows closing in around us. I could feel the darkness pressing in, suffocating me. We had to find the exit, we had to escape. Finally, we broke free from the maze, gasping for air as we stumbled into the hallway. The cold air hit us like a slap, but it didn't bring the relief I desperately sought. "We have to find Sarah," I shouted again, my voice breaking under the weight of despair. "Maybe we can still save her," Emma cried, her eyes glistening with tears. "We can't leave her." But Jake shook his head, fear etched across his face. "It's too late. We've already lost too much. We can't go back. With one last glance at the entrance to the maze, we ran, the sound of laughter echoing behind us, haunting our every step. We rushed to the car and drove away, but I could still feel the weight of dread pressing down on my chest. The memories of that night, the laughter, and the shadows, everything felt too close, too real. We never spoke of that night again. The haunted house became a ghost in our memories, a reminder of what we had lost. Every Halloween after that, I felt a sense of dread wash over me, a haunting reminder of Sarah and the darkness that had consumed her. I often wondered what had happened to her and if she was still out there, lost in the mirrors. But I knew one thing for sure. I would never forget that night, the night when laughter turned to screams, and the line between reality and nightmare blurred forever. With a mix of fear and determination, we made our way to the haunted house, the cold October air biting at our skin. As we approached, it felt like the darkness was reaching out to swallow us whole. Inside, the air was stale and heavy, filled with a thick layer of dust. The memories of laughter were replaced with an oppressive silence that seemed to echo in the corners. We stepped into the mirror maze, the fear palpable in the air. "I can't believe we're doing this," Emma whispered, her voice trembling. "We have to find Sarah," I insisted, my heart racing. We moved deeper into the maze, and the moment we crossed the threshold, the atmosphere shifted once again. The mirrors reflected distorted images of us, twisted and grotesque. I felt as if I were drowning in fear, unable to escape. The laughter returned, but this time it was darker, more sinister, filling my head with dread. "Stay close," I shouted, gripping Emma's hand tightly. We navigated the maze, but the deeper we went, the more disoriented I felt. Shadows danced along the walls, whispering secrets I couldn't understand. "Is anyone there?" I called out, my voice shaking. Suddenly, I heard a familiar voice. "Help! Someone, please help me." It was Sarah. My heart raced as I followed the sound, pushing past mirrors that seemed to block my path. "Sarah!" I cried out, desperation clawing at my throat. We rushed toward the source of the voice, the air thick with tension. "Sarah, where are you?" The laughter grew louder, enveloping us like a suffocating shroud. Emma squeezed my hand tighter as we stumbled forward. "We need to find her. She's in here." "Just keep going," Jake urged, his voice barely above a whisper. Finally, we broke through to another room, and there she was standing in front of a massive mirror, her eyes wide with fear. "Help me," Sarah cried, her voice echoing through the maze. I reached out, trying to grab her hand, but the mirror shimmered like water, pushing her away. "What's happening?" I shouted, panic rising within me. "It won't let me go," Sarah screamed, her face twisted in terror as the mirror pulled her closer, trapping her in its grasp. "Stay away from the mirrors," Jake yelled, but it was too late. The dark energy surged around us, and the mirrors began to crack, releasing a chilling laughter that echoed through the room. "Run!" I shouted, pulling Emma and Jake with me as we raced away from the chaos. But the shadows chased us, growing closer with every step. The laughter turned into screams, filling the air with an unbearable noise. We stumbled back into the maze, our hearts pounding. "We have to find a way out," Emma cried, her face pale with fear. "We can't let it take us too," I shouted, desperation surging through me. We ran blindly through the maze, turning corners at random, hoping to escape the terror that lurked behind us. Just when I thought we were trapped forever, I spotted a faint light in the distance. "There! We can make it!" I yelled, leading the way toward the glimmering light. But as we ran, I felt a pull, a dark force trying to drag me back into the maze. "Don't let it take you," Jake yelled, his voice filled with urgency. I gritted my teeth, fighting against the force as we sprinted toward the light. We broke through the final set of mirrors and into the hallway, collapsing onto the floor. The cold air rushed over us like a wave, but it didn't bring the relief I craved. "Is everyone okay?" I gasped, looking around. Emma and Jake were breathing heavily, but my heart sank as I noticed the absence of Sarah. "Where's Sarah? Where is she?" Emma cried, tears streaming down her face. "She was right behind us," I shouted, panic rising in my chest once more. "We have to go back," I insisted, desperation clawing at my throat, but Jake shook his head fiercely. "It's too late. We can't go back in there. We can't leave her," I shouted, feeling my heart race with fear. "She could be in danger. We can't help her if we die too," Jake shot back, fear evident in his voice. With one last look at the darkness of the mirror maze, we stumbled away, the sound of Sarah's desperate cries echoing behind us. The police were called again, but they found nothing when they searched the house. A sickening weight settled in my stomach, knowing we had left her behind once more. Days turned into weeks, and the emptiness inside me grew heavier. Halloween approached, and I couldn't shake the feeling of dread that clung to me like a shadow. The memories of that night haunted me: Sarah's laughter, the dark presence in the mirrors, Emma's blank stare as fear washed over her. As the anniversary of Sarah's disappearance drew near, I realized we would never escape the darkness that surrounded us. Each Halloween brought back echoes of that night, a chilling reminder of the evil that still lurked within those walls. On Halloween night, I found myself in my room, staring at the darkness outside my window. The memories of Sarah's face haunted me, her laughter now replaced with screams that echoed in my mind. I felt as if the house was calling to me, its shadows whispering secrets I couldn't understand. I decided to return to the haunted houses one last time, alone this time. I needed answers, needed to confront the fear that had taken hold of me. The moment I stepped through the front door, the air felt thick, suffocating. The house felt alive, the walls breathing around me as I navigated through the darkness. I made my way to the mirror maze, my heart racing as I entered. The laughter returned, echoing through the halls, twisting and warping until it became a cacophony of screams. I felt the pull of the mirrors, their dark energy beckoning me closer. "Sarah," I called, my voice trembling. "I'm coming for you." As I ventured deeper into the maze, shadows danced along the walls, whispering my name. I pushed through, determined to find her. Finally, I arrived at the room where I had last seen her, the massive mirror shimmering in the darkness. "Sarah!" I shouted, my heart pounding. But there was no response. Instead, the mirror began to ripple, showing flashes of her terrified face. I reached out, my fingers brushing against the cold surface. "Let her go," I yelled, rage surging within me. "You can't keep her." The mirror shuddered, the laughter turning into agonized wails. I felt the darkness closing in around me, threatening to pull me into its depths. With every ounce of strength, I pulled myself back, my heart racing as the darkness clawed at my mind. "I won't let you take me," I screamed, pushing against the mirror, forcing it to reveal the truth. And then, I saw her. Sarah's face appeared, trapped behind the glass, her eyes wide with fear. "Help me," she cried, her voice echoing in my ears. "No," I shouted, my heart breaking as I reached for her. "I won't leave you." The mirror cracked, and a rush of dark energy surged through me, threatening to swallow me whole. I could feel the darkness closing in, but I refused to give in. "I will save you," I screamed, pushing against the force that tried to pull me back. The mirror shattered, sending shards of glass flying in every direction. The darkness dissipated, revealing the maze behind me, and Sarah's voice faded into the distance. I stumbled back, my heart racing as I felt the cold air wash over me. "Sarah," I cried, but my voice echoed back, empty and haunting. As I stood there, the darkness began to swirl again, the laughter growing louder, echoing off the walls. I realized it wasn't over. The house still held its secrets, and the darkness would always be there, waiting for its next victim. I stumbled out of the mirror maze, my heart heavy with the loss of my friends and the horrors I had witnessed. The house loomed behind me, a constant reminder of the nightmares that had unfolded within its walls. Halloween would always bring back the memories of that night, Sarah's laughter, her screams, the twisted reflections of my friends. I would never forget the darkness that had consumed us, and I knew that as long as the house stood, the evil would remain. I walked away from the house, the weight of my guilt and sorrow pressing down on me. I could never escape the shadows, but I would carry Sarah's memory with me always. The laughter and the screams would haunt me, a chilling reminder of the price we paid for our curiosity. As I turned to leave, the laughter faded into silence, but I knew it was only a matter of time before it returned, whispering my name in the dark, forever reminding me of the friends I had lost.